Hey, hello. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the quiz contents in WebClass. So if you want to give a quick kind of check on your students if they understood some of the lecture material you put up, a quiz is a good way to check. In many cases, you can have it checked automatically so that you're not going to spend a lot of time going through those, and it gives you more time to interact directly with the students. So in this video, it's going to be a little bit of a long one, but first we're going to show you the question types that are available for quizzes. I'm going to show you both on the student side and the teacher side with settings. Then I'm going to show you some of the different settings for how many times the students can access a quiz. Lastly, I'll show you how you can check the scores of your students. But for now, let's go into WebClass and look at what these different question types look like. Okay, so first I'm going to show you what the different questions look like from the student's perspective. So we're going to go into a practice test where I made up all the different types of questions. Okay, so this is a multiple choice question. What's the capital of Yamagata Prefecture? That city is Yamagata. Check. Yeah, it's okay. So next page. Now this is multiple choices. I need to check each answer that is correct. Which cities are in Yamagata? Fukuoka no, Hiroshima no, Sakata yes, Higashine yes, Iwaki no, Sendai no. Okay, I'm doing great. So next page. So now this is a short response question. How many prefectures, including Fu, are there in Japan? That's easy. 47. Excellent. So on to the next one. Now this is an essay question. If we look over to the left a little bit, you can see that this is the rubric for how the essay will be scored. But because it uses a rubric, it won't get a score until the teacher actually sees it. Now the limits the teacher has set is must be over 50 characters long, less than 500. Right now, I'm just going to type some random characters. That should be long enough. Probably not a good score. Okay, let's go to the next page. Now this is what I said could be used as a fill in the blank. So we have these numbered pull-down menus. Pull-down menu 1, pull-down menu 2. Each of these have the same set of choices. Let's see. Hello, how are you? Something fine, thank you, and you. I'm fine, thank you, and you. Very good, thank you. John and Sally are having a party next week. Are you going to blank party? There we go. No, I can't. I have work. So this gives you a pretty good way of making a fill in the blank, which could be based on listening, or it could just be based on the students guessing from the context. And this is matching. So I'm matching the cities with their prefectures. Naha with Okinawa. Hakodate with Hokkaido. Now this matching is a little bit different from other matching questions because I can choose the same item multiple times. Many times matching won't allow that. So there's mine. Here's the correct answers on the right side. Okay. Now this is a sequencing. So the story of Momotaro, what came first? Peach came down the river. It's Momotaro. Okay. Momotaro goes to fight the monster. Animals and Momotaro defeat the monster comes next. And at the end, everybody's happy. That's the end. Okay, grade. And here's my results. So questions, okay, okay. The essay is not graded yet. This was a mistake. Here was this mistake. There we go. That's what it looks like for the different types of questions for a student. Now let's go and see what it looks like for a teacher. Okay, we're going to go first make this a little bit easier. Let's put this whole menu in English. There we go. Okay, edit questions. So on the left-hand side, you can choose the questions that you want to edit. Here's where you add a new question. But down here is the question style. Single choice and the number of choices. Now it's multiple choices. Again, I can choose how many choices. And this checkbox is what is indicating the correct answers. That's same for the multiple choice I showed you previously. Here's a word or numeric input. How many answers are we accepting? Just one. Now you type in the answer that you will accept. But now looking on the right, this is really great. This is something excellent. Because short response has a lot of trouble when we do it online. Because sometimes the students used lowercase letters, but your answer used uppercase letters. The computer will say that's incorrect. Well, WebClass, we can say, don't worry about the case. Don't worry if it's uppercase, lowercase. In Japan, we have two different types of typing. One is called single byte, one is called double byte. Usually the Japanese characters are double byte. But you can write Roman letters with the double byte keyboard. Many times they won't be recognized. But in WebClass, we can say, ignore it, accept both types. And again, sometimes people put a space after their answer, 47 space. Normally, the computer would say that's incorrect. But we can tell WebClass to ignore those spaces. This is excellent. This is actually better than Google Forms. Because in Google Forms, you have to write down all the possible answers that the students could write. Space 47, 47 space, space 47 space, 47 written with a different keyboard. So if you're going to do a short response, maybe WebClass is a great place to use a quiz. Okay, moving on to the next type is the description. This is the essay type. So honestly, I don't think it belongs in a quiz because you're going to have to correct it, give feedback individually, And I think these quizzes should be something the students can get feedback immediately. So if you're interested in this type, please check the video on essay assignments. All right, next, this is the drop-down choices style of question. I call it fill in the blank. So you decide how many drop-down menus you want to have, and they're numbered, 1, 2, etc. Now, if you want to do fill in the blank, just put those same numbers within the text above, and students can choose the correct answer. Now, for each menu here, they're going to have the same choices. So it's similar to fill in the blank with a word bank at the bottom. When you're doing matching, first you decide the number of choices you want to have. You have your A group, and then your B group, just randomly plug in the B group and say, where is the correct answer? So Naha is Okinawa, so that's number 2. Hakodate is Hokkaido, so that's number 4. Now, unfortunately, you can't have more choices in Group A than Group B or the reverse, which is nice when you're doing matching. But since the students can use the same choice multiple times, maybe it doesn't matter so much. All right, and lastly, we have sequencing. Really easily, you just input what the different steps are. Now, this could be steps in a recipe, this could be historical events, or it could be parts of a story. And then you just add in the numerical sequence for it. It's quite simple, actually. So those are the different types of questions that you can use in WebClass. Okay, thanks for following along with me on that. So next, I'd like to show you some of the settings that I think are useful for giving a quiz. So first of all, access. You can determine when students access, for how long, like a time limit. You can also limit who can access and how many times. So I'll show you how to do those. Next part, I think, is really great. In WebClass Quizzes, you can create a quiz of about, say, 100 questions. But in the settings, you can say, choose 20 of those questions for the quiz. That means you can have a question bank, and every student's quiz is different. That reduces the chances of cheating. On top of that, if you let the students take the quiz multiple times, if the quizzes are being drawn at random, they're going to be taking questions from more of the quiz bank. So that's another way to get them to answer more questions. Lastly, you can set the style of the quiz. What I mean by that is, what is done with the feedback for the quiz? So if it's considered like an examination, really formal, kind of a summative feedback, they will get their grade, but they will never see what the correct answer was. So they can also take it as a quiz. They will go through the quiz until the end, and then they can see what the correct answers were. Lastly, there's something called a self-study, and that's what you saw together with me when I was demonstrating. After each question, you get feedback on whether it was correct or not. So let's take a look at those together. Okay, we are now within the settings for the quiz. First, here are the access options. First of all, you can set a time deadline for when the quiz is available. So you have your start time, so the month, day, year, and the time of day. And you have your finish time, when it's going to be closed. Next, you can limit the access times. You might have a feeling, hey, I want the kids to only take this quiz one time. So you set this as 1. I don't recommend that. Setting it as 1 time opens you up to getting a lot of emails from students who accidentally closed the quiz before they were finished, and they failed the quiz, and now they can't access it again. So I would give them a minimum of 2 times. But in my case, I usually give them about 3 to 5 times that they can access. You can also set a time limit, how many minutes they can have this quiz open. So if you don't want them to spend a lot of time researching their responses on the internet, checking the Google Translator, conferring with their friends through SNS, maybe set the time limit a little bit shorter. But again, if you make the time limit too strict, if they have some kind of unforeseen event, like somebody came to the door, they may run out of time for something a little bit beyond their control. And then you'll have to open up the quiz again for them later. You can also select from the course members who can take the quiz. If you do not select anyone, the complete member list is the default. So you don't have to select everyone every time. So those are the basic access options. So the question display, first we have random options. So if you have multiple choices, you can shuffle up the A, B, C, and D options for every student. That way, you can't say, hey, question number 1 is B. They're going to be different. Random questions means from a set question bank, you select a fixed number. So say, select 20 questions from all of the questions in the quiz. This is really useful, especially, as I mentioned before, combined with multiple quiz taking. You can get the students to cover more material, but they don't feel like they're doing as much because they're just getting a better score. So here's where you can set your passing mark. And that's about it for the options. Okay. I apologize. I'd forgotten to show you where you can choose if this is going to be a self-study, where students see the response after every question, or it's going to be a quiz where they see all the correct answers at the end, or if it's going to be an exam where the answers are hidden. So that is right up at the top in the general options, and it's the type. So exercise is going to show the answers between questions. Examination is going to be like a formal test. All the results are hidden. And test is like a quiz. So after they finish, they can see the solutions. Now, if you do this type right here, you let the students take the quiz 5 times, but you don't have the questions changing randomly. Of course, the second, third, fourth, and fifth times should probably be 100% because they've already been told what the answers are. So if you're going to let them take the quiz multiple times, be sure to use the random question option. By the way, you can also make these as surveys. So we'll talk about surveys in a different video. But before we finish, I'd like to show you how you can check the grades on one of your quizzes. So say we go into one of your quizzes, and on the right side it tells you how many people attempted the quiz. The scores of the students. I'll hold on a second. There we go. I just wanted to block out the students' names, but you can see how many times they took it. If they're just doing it as a quiz, they might have 3, 4, 5 times. And then you're going to see different scores here. So their lowest score, their average score, their maximum score. In my case, I usually tell the students I will take their average score for their quizzes. Analyzing the test results is also something you may be interested in. Were there any questions that were particularly hard for your students? Was there something that everybody got really easily? It can maybe help you tweak your quizzes for the future. So display results. So now we're looking at the different questions. Let's see, going through how many, 80%, 100%. This question here, only 66% of the students got it right. Someone who takes care of others with money, food, or home. Provider. Some of the students thought it was a tenant. They're still seeing that it's a person. Oh, and if you want to see specifically who made these mistakes, you can click and it will show you the students' names, and you can email them directly from this quiz. So if they had a very major mistake that you want them to fix in the future, you could kind of connect with them and take care of that. So thank you for hanging in there with me. So in this video on WebClass Quizzes, we talked about the different question types available, some useful settings for access and for randomization of questions. We didn't talk about batch upload. We'll do that sometime in the future. And then checking student scores or checking statistics on each individual question. So good luck with your quizzes.